Hey, hey, this is Talk About It Tuesday podcast by Recycle to Riches, brought to you by yours truly, Ashley Morgan. You're listening to or watching to episode 4, Why Should Sustainability and Sustainable Fashion Be Normal? We are actually talking to the expert herself, Lydia, founder of Pretty Green Lily blog, where she writes all about sustainability and fashion, bringing them together in a beautiful blog format. She does this all while studying international politics in Bulgaria. See, I told you she was the expert. Without further ado, let's talk about it, people. Well, welcome, Lydia. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you here on Talk About It Tuesday podcast, episode 4. Let's jump right into it. First question, how is sustainable fashion normal?
Thank you so much for having me, Ash. I'm so happy to chat again with you. Well, I think sustainable fashion right now is not quite that normal. I think we have to work towards normalizing it. And that's basically what I do with my blog. Actually, the subtitle of my blog is Normalizing Sustainable Fashion. And actually, if you think about it, everything about sustainable fashion should be normal because we are talking about what? Environmental care, respect to human rights, innovation, inclusivity, all those things should be embedded into the system and the industry, the fashion industry, but they are not. And that is the problem, really. So we don't see it as something normal because what we see right now as normal, what most people do is over consuming and just following this linear economy, which is I buy, I use, I throw away. And that should not be normal. That doesn't feel natural. That doesn't feel okay. So when we talk about sustainable fashion, it should be normal. It should be the norm, but it is not right now. And that is really worrying. And it's what I'm trying to change really with my blog and my work.
Wow, that is incredible. I love that passion and that mission. It sounds very aligned with Recycle to Riches, changing the culture of consumption, and you're making it normal for us to do that. So thank you for that effort and that work. Next question. When did your love of sustainability even begin, and how did it intertwine with fashion?
Well, this goes way back. I am a small town girl from Spain. I come from a region called Castile and Leon, is so that you can picture in your mind between Madrid and Portugal. So it's landlocked. And we have this very extreme weather where winters are terribly cold and summers are very, very dry and very, very hot. And well, I come from a family of farmers, so I was able to see firsthand since I was a child how the environment affects us economically, how it affects our society, how it affected the mood of my parents and my uncles after they were coming home from work. And as well, it made me familiar with how these laws, legislation, and international frameworks applied to environmental policies affect us directly because they really do. For example, in Europe, most of the income of farmers comes from a policy called Common Agrarian Policy, and that's most of the income of European farmers. So I became very familiar with these things, and with the years, I became more interested in the environment and all things sustainable development. And when I discovered these things, sustainable development goals, for example, I know that you interviewed Kevin Soffen from
Yes.
Sustainable SDG Talks. He's
Podcast.
brilliant as
Yeah,
well.
it's awesome.
So
That was episode
yeah,
1.
yes, I've been listening to it. Yeah. So I became really, really interested with this whole idea of having a framework and a plan towards sustainable development for everyone, not
Right.
only for Europe or North America, for everyone. Okay, so after high school, I graduated with a bachelor's in translation here in Spain.
Wow.
And so I'm a communicator by trade. But then I still had this itch about what can we do about the environment and politics, and how can we change the situation
Mm-hmm.
that is everything that is wrong with the systems that we have going on in the world. So it's when I decided to move to Bulgaria, which is the most random thing actually, which is the other corner of Europe, and study international politics. This is a French, uh, a program taught in French, which is very focused on European integration and sustainable development and all these things.
Okay.
And I'm so sorry, my phone.
That's okay. We are in the middle of a
You
pandemic.
can cut this.
What happens, man? It could happen any second now on my
Oh
end
God.
too. Don't even worry
I
about it.
told everyone, don't disturb me.
Yeah,
I'm so
yeah. I
sorry.
even have like
So
little live things that says I'm live. Nope, they don't listen to it.
that's brilliant.
Yeah, they don't listen to
Oh
it
my
though.
God.
Don't worry, it doesn't work. You don't need to get
Thank
it.
you so much for understanding. So yeah, I was telling you, I decided to move there to start this
Yeah.
program. So this program is very focused on European integration, and it focuses on these disparities between different countries and different regions in the world, which is something that I think in the Western world we are not very concerned about. We
Right.
are more concerned about ourselves. So, and then at the same time, I have always loved fashion a lot. I've always had this passion for everything creative, and
Me
fashion for
too.
me has
Yeah.
always been a way to express that.
A hundred
But then I
percent.
learned about fast fashion and sustainable fashion, and why the fashion industry is actually terrible for everything, for the planet, for the people, for the animals, for everyone. And it was really a moral conundrum, like a dilemma that I had going on, because as well, I am Spanish, and you might know that Inditex, it's like the mother company of Zara and all these big fast fashion companies. It's like the pride of Spaniards.
Right.
So it's something really hard to tackle with us. I've always loved going shopping with my friends to Zara. We have all these big, beautiful shops everywhere. And it's something that is really embedded into our society.
Yeah.
And I felt really guilty when I learned about fast fashion and how it's contributing to these global problems and everything that I'm
Same.
worried about in the environment. And so these two parts of myself just collided, and they became pretty green lily. I decided to use my education as a communicator
Nice.
and try to teach people, and at the same time learn myself, because I'm learning a lot and getting to know people like you as well. So I write about all these things that I find interesting, that I think that they are not common knowledge
Right.
really, and should be. And what I'm doing right now as well, I'm trying to expand this to the Spanish speaking community and translating all my posts,
Nice.
because I think we are a lot of people speaking Spanish in the world, here in Spain and in South America and everywhere. So I think it's something really important to be able to make this message reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So that's more or less it, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. If at any point in time you want to translate this podcast and use it for information, please do so. We want to reach everybody as well. And my downfall is I need to learn another language. So that is a goal of mine for sure. You need it these days. You need to be bilingual, and you need to be all inclusive in every brand aspect that you're doing, anything you're doing. It's important. That's the new
Absolutely.
world that we're living in, and it's an amazing one. I'm excited for it. So, where do you, with all of this information that you have, I'm sure you have a little outlook on where this industry of textiles and fashion is going. Where do you see it going in 20 years, 30 years?
Hopefully, it will be in a better place than it is now. It's hard going worse than right now. So we are talking about a $1 trillion industry. Like, I
Right.
think the fashion industry makes somewhere close to $1 trillion a year.
Oh my.
So when we talk about changing this, we have to take so many things into consideration, and we have to understand that we cannot change things radically fast, because as well, so many systems depend on this. Think about delocalization. So like when big Western companies create factories overseas in order to reduce their costs. So imagine if suddenly they all close these factories, a lot of people would be laid off, and a lot of social unrest, economic issues that translate into political issues would come up very fast.
Mm.
And so I think what we need is, first of all, um, an international agreement or some kind of plan. We need planification
Mm.
in order to be able to change the situation gradually. We need labor laws, we need environmental protection laws. We need to create this framework to make this transition possible and safe for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to get stuck mentally on this goal of we need to change the situation, and by wanting to make it better, make it worse maybe. So there's a lot to change. What I do think is that we are going the right way. Why? Because I see that there's a lot of innovation coming up
Mm.
very fast. Every week, I actually have a newsletter on my blog in which I highlight like a new innovation in the fashion industry, a new material or a new technique. And you would be shocked to learn how many innovations are coming up every week.
Oh yeah.
I'm able to find a new one. I have been doing this for like 1 year and a half, and I haven't repeated a single one.
You don't have to.
So
Yeah,
there's,
there's so many.
yeah, there are so many brilliant minds around the world that are able to find these kind of solutions and alternatives that
Agreed.
don't hurt the environment. Yeah.
And
So
that's kind of what we do exactly, where with our closed loop communities, we're researching that every single day. We're researching for these closed loop communities. We believe that there's solutions out there. They just need to be brought in one place, like you're saying, a
exactly,
framework.
exactly. I think that's key. That's fundamental. And so we would need this kind of framework, or like to push these innovations and to make them, to empower innovation and empower people to make really a change in this sense. But
Right.
I do think that this is going to happen because, for example, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, for example.
Exactly.
Think about that. That's a framework that motivates and kind of pushes each individual state to make as much as they can.
Yep.
How they are doing it, that's another topic, but at least it's there. It
Right. It's a
exists as
framework, like you're saying.
establishing benchmarks. Yeah.
Right.
So it's something. So if we had something like this, imagine for the fashion industry, some kind of standard that has to be applied internationally, that would be really helpful.
Mm.
Because so far, I think mostly things stay on the national or regional level. For example, in the European Union, we do have certain standards and labels.
Right.
There's this eco label, which is starting to be used, but it's more regional to the European Union. So if we had something that, as well on the human level, was able to ensure that workers are going to be paid a fair and living wage, these kind
So
of
what do
things.
you
So
feel
I do think
what do you feel about, the certified B Corp and certified B Corporation and fair trade
I
certification? What do
I
we feel about
really
this?
do I really do appreciate that these labels exist,
Uh-huh.
but as well, I think consumers have to be educated in the sense that having one label doesn't mean that this company is completely sustainable,
Right.
or that is completely good,
Right.
because as far as I know, it's pretty hard and expensive to get
It
certified.
is. Right.
Probably you know a lot about this as well, but as I understand, it's very expensive and very difficult to get it. So I think a lot as well about small businesses
Right.
or local businesses that maybe cannot afford this upfront investment.
right,
right
but
away.
they're doing the right things.
Yeah, so maybe they're doing the right thing. Maybe they are more sustainable than a big corp, but they cannot prove it.
So you
So we
think
need to have this critical thinking.
a free certificate that people can apply for that is fair trade, sustainable, ethical, and it's a form of a life cycle analysis on the company where they can just apply for it, and these are the definitions of how you can get this certificate. Doesn't cost any money. You just have to have these qualifications. And this way, now we know the small businesses can be included in this as well, because people are going this way, right? Are they not? When they're opening up companies, they want to go fair trade. They want to be, sustainable most of the time nowadays.
Yes, absolutely. And that would be brilliant if, as well, small businesses were given the opportunity to really showcase everything they're doing. Because sometimes we get so focused on finding these labels. For example, when you're in the supermarket and you see the bio tag,
Right.
you say, okay, I'm buying this. It's bio, it's good. But it's not that simple. Things in sustainability are not that simple.
Right.
So I do appreciate when a company puts in the effort and the money and all the resources towards getting these fair trade or B Corp certifications, but we need to understand that that's not everything. And that's something that I have been learning throughout this whole journey
Yeah.
of having the blog and talking with people and business owners, because I used to think that everything with this certification or with that certification was good, and if you didn't have it, it meant that you're not trying enough, and that's not true.
True.
It's
Right.
about different levels, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, we accept everybody on our marketplace. We just do the life cycle analysis on the brands with the owners. And if they match those questions up and they can tell us pretty much everything about their brand, we'll put them on. It doesn't matter if they have certificates or not. And when they
That's brilliant.
when they like hear us ask these questions, sometimes they learn and they're like, oh cool, I didn't know about that, maybe we'll try for that. Or yeah, we are trying for it, but it's expensive, just like that, and it's like, no problem, you match the qualifications, so you should try at least, but you're check every box in our book,
Yeah,
so
actually
like a
having this
little,
clear communication and transparency, I think, is the first uh, step
yeah,
towards really including everyone in the conversation,
right,
because with
on both ends.
transparency you can reach a lot of things.
On both ends.
Sorry.
On both ends, not
Oh
just for
yeah,
the
absolutely.
consumer, but also for the producer and for the boutiques and everyone in between. One thing that I like to say is this linear economy that you mentioned, it really, if you look at it fully, you are just seeing three steps: manufacturer, purchaser, consumer, drop off at the waste bin. That's not everything. You're not seeing the ins and outs of everything that goes on, and the
Yeah.
shipping from each section, and it's a whole big thing. And so I love that you said, sustainability is not simple, right? It's
Yeah,
not
it's
a
not at
simple
all.
thing.
For example, something that I learned after reading about Rana Plaza, this building with thousands of garment workers, a lot of them lost their lives just because of lack of interest from big companies, really.
Lack of care.
Actually, this whole conversation, yes, this conversation started that actually many big companies don't really know where they are producing. They It was really hard to find out actually who was responsible of this, and they had to go looking for tags of this brand or this other brand in the how do you call them, the rumbles of the building,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the after the building collapsed. So that's really mind blown when you think about it, because we think that things are simple, but they're not. There's so many middlemen all the time in
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So transparency and having this communication, as you said, in both ends, I think it is key. It is necessary if we want to go somewhere to really progress in this sense. And I think we are, as a society, we are really going in this direction. I don't know where we are yet, but we are going in this direction, mainly because as well consumers are paying attention to this topic, and consumers are listening, and they do have interest also in taking care about worker rights and the environment. And it's not that we don't care anymore. We know the problem with the fashion industry, and we want to do something about it.
Yeah, for sure. Even for the listeners and watchers out there, like, just you guys listening to us is a step in the right direction, honestly. And just sharing this and getting this episode out there is a step in the right direction. That's why we do Talk About It Tuesdays, so we can educate the community on all of this, everything about sustainability and fair trade, closed loop, all of it. So I have a good question for you. If you had 5 top sustainable brands or even habits to choose from for the rest of your life, what would they be? 5 or 3 if you can't think of 5.
Question, and I have so many answers. I think the first one has to be secondhand, because it offers such a variety for everyone. It doesn't matter your budget, your style, where you live. Really, right now with the internet, for example, you can, if you're looking for designer brands, even right now you can go to the Real or Vestiaire, or these kind of secondhand online stores. Or if your budget is lower, you can always take advantage of that locally or not. And I love that it's becoming more democratized. Maybe it's more common right now than a few years ago. For example, in my hometown here in Spain, is more common right now.
Oh, good.
Because a few years ago there were just like charity shops, like that, not like proper fashion secondhand shops, and it was kind of stigmatized. But now I love that people accept it and people love it. And as well, in secondhand fashion, I'm including like swapped clothes, or like clothes that you get from your mom's closet, like this sweater that I'm wearing right now, which is from my mom's closet. The second one, okay, first one, yeah. Second one, a brand that I'm really into right now. I don't have anything from them, but I really love them. It's called Oh 7 Days, and it's a Canadian brand, but it's Istanbul based, and they take dead stock fabric. So instead of throwing fabrics away from factories in Istanbul, they repurpose them. The third brand, it's another Turkish brand. It's called the Loop Arts, and they are amazing. They take like old kilins, like carpets, the Turkish and Persian carpets, and they turn them into shoes and bags, and they are amazing. I totally recommend checking them out, because they are
all that information.
They're really stunning. I've been following them on Instagram for so long, and I really want like a pair of shoes from them. They're amazing. And yeah, and actually my boyfriend is Turkish, and maybe it's because that's why I'm so obsessed with this with this Turkish brand. Yeah. And I could totally chat with them. And as well, I have at least one more. Another habit would be shopping local. I think that's as well can be key and really important, because as well it allows to have this clear communication and transparency. As well, you're supporting a local maker, creator, designer, store. You never know, and I think it's really amazing seeing how you can really make a real person happy by consuming from them. And as well, something that I know you do in Recycle to Riches, which is mending and upcycling things. I think that's really important, and it really as well is included in this sustainable fashion. Yeah.
For sure. Those are key things and great choices. So with us all still in the middle of this pandemic and this being recorded in the middle of a pandemic, I like to ask the guests, how has this all affected you and your blog and your organization?
Well, it's been rough. I am a very optimistic person, so I always try to take things slow, take one day at a time, and try to find the bright part of things. And I'm really fortunate because I have my home, which is I'm safe there. I feel great in there. Right now, I'm at my parents' house in Spain, but I'm based in Sofia, Bulgaria. And keeping up with the blog, sometimes it has been complicated because creating content about sustainability is already very heavy because you're faced with very deep and dark issues many times, and you have to read about human rights being violated and people dying that shouldn't be dying, or issues about the environment that mm, rivers are being polluted, water. So sometimes it gets really heavy being researching all these topics and being so deep into very dark topics. And then you have the pandemic. I try to take, as I said, it's my mantra, take one day at a time.
Yeah.
Because if not, you will go crazy. And I have learned a lot of that gratefulness is really important,
True.
is the base of everything, really. It's something that has helped me cope with this situation, and has allowed me to be creative even in this time of crisis and everything. And I'm really, really grateful to be able to be working and studying at home from my computer.
True.
Because other people are not this fortunate, and they need to go as doctors to work in a hospital, as even in restaurants, in supermarkets. And I'm so appreciative of them.
Yes.
And I'm just so I just feel so grateful in that
Frontline
sense.
workers, for sure. Thank you, frontline workers, for what you've done in this pandemic.
Completely.
All around the world, just thank you. And I'm right there with you. We get to work at home, safe in our office, and it's amazing. That's what we're grateful for. So I agree with you, Lydia. Take one day at a time, keep it positive in your day. I always say just write 5 things that you're super grateful for down, or even just say them out loud every day. And it really gets you through and past all the negatives that can come around you through this pandemic time. It's a wild one, but we can do it together. Just stick with the Talk About It Tuesdays and you'll be good. All right, last question. I like to ask all the guests, because we're all about, zero waste. Is the zero waste lifestyle truly possible?
Well, yes and no, I think. Well, zero waste as a lifestyle might be easier to achieve than zero waste as a system, because something that I've been researching a lot lately and I'm very passionate about is the circular economy. So I really hope that someday we will get close to this closed loop economy, because it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful concept. Is the dream, right? So right now, as things are, having a zero waste lifestyle is really hard, because think about, okay, you maybe are able to not use your single-use plastic bottles and bags and things like that. But think about medicines, for example. They all come in this plastic thing. So there are 2 things to consider here. One, in some cases, plastic is not the enemy. The use we make of plastic is the enemy. So we have been using and overusing plastic and single-use items for so long that we have become enemies of all these idea. But actually, plastic existing has allowed for so many so much innovation.
Yeah,
Think about the medicine field without going any further.
right.
So maybe there
Now
will be
the
some
building
plastics.
industry with plastic
Yes,
and
exactly.
everything.
So maybe there are some plastics that will always be necessary, but as well, I think that on the other hand, we will be able very soon to find some kind of alternative
Right.
to oil-based plastic,
Well, they
because
are
we
working
already
on
actually
corn
have the
polymers.
bio. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe if they become cheaper to produce or
exactly.
to easier to produce or anything, I'm really hopeful about that. So maybe in a very close future, we will not be able to be 100% zero waste,
Right,
but I'm hopeful of that because,
right.
as well, it's a whole systemic change. And as we were talking earlier about fashion, it's not that easy to change things without really causing this ripple effect back to the to the
Yeah.
world.
And to your point of the ripple effect, I mean, people made plastic to help diseases. A lot of it
Mhm.
was for health purposes, honestly. And they thought they were doing great in the world. They thought that that was a solution. It was a solution.
Yeah,
Plastic was a solution
and we
for
know
people
better.
back then.
Yeah,
So we can't like dock them for trying to work with
exactly.
what they had and the innovation that they did. I think now we know enough to look past those innovations that we're thinking we're creating and almost see what the effects might be on the solutions we're trying to create. And then that
Exactly.
way you have this forecast of, oh wait, if we put in this aqueduct, this this whole fish ecosystem down in stream is going to not be able to get to their food that was up there upstream. So it is a whole, we can predict now. We've made
Yeah.
mistakes, so I think we can predict the mistakes almost, and some won't be predicted. But I think this is what's going to help us to get to this closed loop economy is the
Yes.
prediction of what our solutions might do, right?
It's so complicated, but it's one of the things that I love about sustainability. You have to think about so many factors and you have to learn so much
Yeah,
about everything about your mistakes, and you have to be able to accept those mistakes.
a hundred
So,
percent.
in the personal sense, in your personal sphere, but as well like in the sense of companies and governments, everyone has to learn from everything. And I think it's something that makes sustainability
Yeah,
exciting,
yeah.
that is so complex. And there's space for everything for everyone.
I always say when you start sustainability, you peel back that cover and you just keep going. You can't help it. It's like that
Yeah,
snowball effect.
yeah,
Help it. Soon you're just like composting, everything's, you're taking everything in. You don't want to throw anything out.
completely agree.
Well, it has been such an honor speaking with you. Thank you so much, Lydia, for joining us on our Talk About It Tuesday podcast for episode 4. Can you tell the community all about how they can connect with you?
Of course. Well, my blog is prettygreenlily.com. You can always find me there. And if you have suggestions, anything that you would like me to know, you can just send me an email. It's listed there. But if not, I hang out a lot on Instagram at prettygreenlily. And right now I'm on Clubhouse as well. I don't know how long this app will stay, but it's pretty cool. We have pretty cool conversations there. And
Yep.
I'm at Lydia Martin. So you can find me there as well if you're in Clubhouse.
Perfect, perfect. Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for having me. It's always so fun to talk with you.
It is. It's a blast. Thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to say it's an honor to speak with such a great mind because you went with education first, and I kind of just went with the seat of my pants first and then got into education. And so it has just been an amazing journey learning all of these backgrounds and really getting deep into it. So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ash.